Zhang Xuefeng's wealth code, selling anxiety remedies and sucking the blood of the information poor. This is Jersey News Commentary Channel. 2 days ago, Zhang Xuefeng, the man who once shouted online, "If China attacks Taiwan, I'm willing to donate 50 million yuan," suddenly died of cardiac sudden death caused by heart disease. For the past 2 days, videos discussing Zhang Xuefeng have flooded the internet. Most say he died from overwork. Some also say his death was caused by taking 7 vaccine shots. What interests me is only his wealth code, a web influencer who made his living by selling information about college application choices managed, in just a few short years, to accumulate several hundred million yuan in wealth. That is nothing short of a miracle. Zhang Xuefeng, whose original name was Zhang Zibiao, was born in Qiqihar, Heilongjiang, in 1984. He was 30 years old. He dropped out of Zhengzhou University, founded Suzhou Fengxue Weilai Education Technology Co. Ltd. Amassed a fortune worth several hundred million yuan, and had 40 million followers. If Sima Jiao built up 60 million followers and a fortune of several hundred million by selling patriotism, then Zhang Xuefeng made a fortune by selling remedies for educational anxiety. If I had to sum up Zhang Xuefeng's business model in one sentence, it would be this: first manufacture educational anxiety, then sell his certain cure, and thus reap huge profits. First of all, it must be acknowledged that information asymmetry can be legally monetized. In a highly complex society, information is scattered, the rules are hidden, and ordinary people cannot understand them. Whoever can organize information, distill patterns, and offer decision-making advice has the right to profit from it. There is nothing wrong with that. From this perspective, Zhang Xuefeng's first step had value. He explained complicated matters such as college entrance application choices, major selection, and employment trends to ordinary families. The problem lies not in the information itself, but in the fact that something went wrong with his rhetoric system. First, he turned himself into an all-knowing monopolist of information. His most classic line was, "I'm responsible for talking, parents are responsible for believing." What is the essence of that sentence? It is simply him telling you do not need to think, you do not have the ability to judge, you only need to believe me. This is not consulting. This is one-way authoritarian indoctrination. Second, he fabricated an information monopoly. He repeatedly emphasized, "We have internal data, and we have exclusive reports." But the reality is that those so-called internal facts he talked about all came from admissions websites, past years' admission statistics, and publicly available industry information. He packaged public information as something exclusive and scarce. Is that not a form of deception? Third, he deliberately manufactured anxiety and pushed life questions to extremes. His typical lines were 30% depends on the exam, 70% depends on the application, and choosing the wrong major ruins your whole life. Why were those lines effective? Because they struck at one of people's deepest fears, that life is irreversible. But the reality is that majors can be changed, paths can be altered, and life is a multivariable system. Zhang Xuefeng reduced a complex world to one sentence: choose wrong, and you're finished. Fourth, he turned probability into destiny. The real world is governed by probability distributions. One major may have a higher employment rate, another industry may have a better trend, but all of these factors are constantly changing and updating. But in Zhang Xuefeng's narrative, everything became a statement of certainty: this will definitely not work. Absolutely do not choose that. In essence, he used the language of certainty to cover up the reality of uncertainty. Because uncertainty cannot be sold. Only certainty can be charged for. That is why his college application consulting services cost so much. For example, the dream card was 12,999 yuan, and the perfect dream card was 18,999 yuan. And what happened in the end? Many of the majors he once firmly recommended, accounting, computer science, artificial intelligence, and so on, have now become some of the first to face unemployment. Fifth, Zhang Xuefeng used his sharp tongue to generate traffic, and used extremism to win trust. He dared to say extreme things, leaving no room for moderation. For example, he said, "Journalism is dead, and if my son applied for a journalism major, I'd break his legs." These were not analysis. They were emotional incitement. Through extreme expression, he gained attention, built up the image of someone who dares to tell the truth, turned that into commercial trust, and then turned that trust into a rolling flood of money. The real question is, why did so many people believe in him, worship him like a god, and treat him like some immortal sage? That is the saddest part of all. and the real question this article wants to answer. Why could such simple rhetoric be sold for 20,000 yuan per case? I believe there are at least 4 reasons. The first reason is that as the economy sinks, anxiety rises. When the economy goes downward, job opportunities shrink, channels for upward mobility narrow, and the cost of failure rises. Especially for families at the bottom, they have no resources. They have only one path, they must choose correctly. Once they choose wrong, there is no second chance and no room for trial and error. As a result, anxiety is magnified without limit. The second reason is that information-poor people are everywhere. There are far more information-poor people than economically poor people. Information-poor is a socio-economic concept I have coined. Their characteristics are these: they do not know where information comes from, they cannot judge whether information is true or false, and they cannot analyze the internal logic of information. As a result, this vast group of information-poor people outsources all of its hopes to authority. And what Zhang Xuefeng provided was exactly this: simple answers, clear conclusions, and intense confidence. The tragic reality is that the simpler, more certain, and more absolute something sounds, the more easily people believe it. The third reason is that human nature prefers certain answers. This is not only a Chinese problem. It is a human problem. Many people are unwilling to think, unwilling to bear the responsibility of judgment, and unwilling to face uncertainty. What they like most is a single sentence with a clear answer. So the more complex the truth, the fewer people will listen. The simpler the lie, the more easily it spreads. The more fools there are, the easier it is for swindlers to succeed. In fact, there are so many fools that there are not even enough swindlers to go around. The fourth reason is herd mentality. When large numbers of parents line up for consultations and pay high fees, a certain mentality takes shape: everyone is doing it, so it must be right. That is the herd effect, mindless conformity. This is China's tragedy, but even more, it is humanity's tragedy. In China, educational anxiety, class anxiety, survival anxiety, combined with opaque information, gave birth to the myth of Zhang Xuefeng. In the United States, similar phenomena also exist. For example, Trump tells tall tales and lies as easily as he breathes. And what he is best at is precisely using extreme political rhetoric to deceive the masses, simplifying complicated problems into slogans, and then mobilizing emotion. For example, he says that once he comes to power, he can make America great, bring manufacturing back to the United States, and create many job opportunities. He says tariffs can bring the United States $5 trillion in benefits, so much money that it cannot all be spent. Tragically, tens of millions of MAGA supporters are willing, like fools, to believe such simple, forceful, and absolute rhetoric. The result is a complete mess, with the whole country fooled. Why are there so many fools, in China and abroad, willing to believe swindlers? The essence of it is this: humanity fears uncertainty, and therefore likes to hear simple, pleasant words. Whether Zhang Xuefeng is a swindler is actually not the most important question. The most important question is: why are people so eager to be deceived?